Hello, pocket knife community, knife lovers, knife enthusiasts, interested viewers folder here. Whew. I am excited about the GMF4. All right, I'm at GiantMouse's, the GiantMouse website, and I'm going to just read this real quick about the GMF4. So, as always, Enzo and Vox designed the GMF4 with utility in mind. Okay, utility. So utility so far, right? Combining their collective outdoor experience and design knowledge, our Danish designers have created the ultimate camp knife. Okay. Okay. So what we have here is a camp knife. I admit that when I first saw this knife and saw the materials it's made with, it's made, I like the steel. I like the steel, N690. Well, I like VG10. Let me just put that out there. I like VG10 steel because of, very high corrosion resistance and wear resistance. So I like VG10. When you talk about stuff for outdoors, I like VG10. Now, there's other stuff for outdoors that are fantastic, but VG10, Japanese VG10 is very cost effective. Excellent steel, no complaints. Easy to sharpen, even I can sharpen it. So yeah, VG10 I'm a big fan, and N690 is essentially VG10. So let me finish. So as soon as you get the GMF in hand, you'll feel as though you are one with the knife. It becomes a working tool extension of your arm, ready to tackle any chore around the campsite. Okay, so that's the second sentence, and basically this is a camp knife, guys, for camping. Campsite, right? Talking about campsite. Okay, the ergonomics of the handle and balance weight of the knife were designed to perfection through several iterations with our manufacturing partner in Italy. The blade in N690 steel sports a high flat saber grind with jimping in all the right places, as you've come to expect from Vox and Enzo. Finally, a lanyard hole is strategically placed in front of the handle to provide a safer grip when working in the bushes. Okay, so this lanyard hole in the front is for working in the bushes. Okay, in the instance a branch catches on your lanyard, the knife will be pulled forward out of your hand, whilst a classic mounted end lanyard would be pulled through your hand. Ouch. Okay. Did we mention the sheath? All right. Did we mention the sheath? Each GMF is accompanied by a beautifully designed and handcrafted Italian leather sheath. Are you ready for your next adventure? Okay, so that's it. That's the that's how they advertise the knife. So, okay, let me just say this. Okay, let me just go through the dimensions of the blade, and then I'll talk about how I feel about it, and we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay? All right. So, the blade is 5.6 inches. The handle is 4.7. The overall length is 10.4. As I said before, it uses N690 steel. Outstanding. The weight is 8.1 ounces, and the blade is 0.19 inches thick. So it's not a 1/4 inch thick. It doesn't look like a 1/4 inch. I mean, it's definitely not a 1/4 inch thick anyway, but it's almost a 1/4 inch thick. It's 1.19. Okay. The sheath is made of leather. Okay, also the weight is 8.1 ounces, but it's 11.6 ounces with the sheath. And that's important because honestly, without this doesn't make much sense. Without this makes no sense. Right? You're not going to have a sheath with no knife. And honestly, this is not a folding knife. It's a fixed blade. So you need the sheath. Not want, not as a second thought. This is it. So when GiantMouse advertised this knife on their website as a campsite knife, that changes my perspective of this. And actually, I should have really been looking at their knives, because their knives are all kind of advertised the same way. Okay, so let's just finish here before I really get into that, because there is a negative. Anyway, this thing has the flat saber grind on the blade. It's a clip point or a drop point. Well, clip point with a top harpoon swedge at that. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous blade. It's got the Vox and Anso iconography on the blade with the GiantMouse there. Beautiful. The front lanyard holder they were talking about. Two spots of separate jimping. One, if you're holding the handle in its normal position behind the finger guard in this front lanyard hole, then you'd use this jimping. If you chose to choke up and use the choil because you need more forward pressure on something that you're cutting, then you can use the second series of jimping, which is nice. The spine of this thing is in just absolutely beautifully chamfered crown spine. It also has jimping in the back that a little bit more, in my opinion, is for aesthetics than actual use, because you're not going to really get anything. You're not going to get any traction back there, but I don't care. I still am glad they put that there, because it looks absolutely gorgeous. Full Tang design, comes around to the striking point on the handle, and that beautiful chamfered crowning continues through the bottom of the handle, right through the two micarta scales. It says made in Italy, N690 here, which I love the way they do their what do they call it? The branding or advertising that they do is always minimalist, and it's just fantastic. Like, they could have put that here. They could have put made in Italy, but that's too much writing. On this side, there's no writing. On this side is just Vox and Anso with the GiantMouse, and right under here says made in Italy, N690. Right underneath, GiantMouse is just. I sound like a fanboy. I get it. I am. They do things so well over there. I really love those guys. I love the understated way in which they make things. Passive aggression is just beautiful. The lanyard, the sheath, is made. It says handmade in Italy on the back. It has the GiantMouse iconography on the front, and it's made of leather. And the leather seems to be very stout and well made. It's got some stitching here to seal up the back of the sheath. It's got stitching here to seal up the belt loop here, and it's got the retaining strap, which, by the way, is the only knife, the only fixed blade they make with any restraining at all. The rest of them are all like this, just open. You just take the knife and sheath it, right? There's no restraining strap. This is the only one they have. It's also sewn in here. So let's talk about the knife real quick, and we'll talk about the sheath, and we'll be done. And then the knife and the sheath. The knife feels fantastic. Fantastic in hand. It really does. It has very good ergos. Not always the biggest fan of micarta. I like G10 better, but this micarta is stout, and I've actually oiled it. So I've oiled it. I use food grade mineral oil, and so it changed it to full on black, and it solidifies it. It patinas it quicker. It breaks it in quicker. So it feels very good in hand. I love the ergos. I love the front finger choil. I love the blade. outstanding. Really is outstanding. They use T8s in the handle, so you could take these scales off of the full Tang design if you want, which is great. And you could put different scales on this. You could have custom scales made, cut out to this exact design and contour, and do that if you wanted. So yeah, it's great. It's got a blunt force trauma striking point in the back. I don't like the fact that it has a point to it. I'd rather it if it was just flat, but it looks better with the point. And you know, these guys are about looks. I mean, listen, so am I. So I can't even, you know, I'm not even beating them up. It does look better with that point. But this way, if you're hitting something, you might dig into it. If it was blunt, then it, you know, it might not affect it. It depends on what you're hammering. Yeah, so do I have any negatives on the knife itself? Not really. I mean, I complained about that a little bit, but that's just nitpicking. And this is useless except for aesthetics. But I would, if you ask me, would you rather have this here or not? I would say no, put it in. Because it makes this spine just look badass. Love it. So yeah, so the knife itself, I would say is very high marks. Now, coming to the sheath, I wouldn't say so much. Is it well made? Yeah. Is it nice? Yeah, it's nice. It's leather. But the problem that I have with this sheath is two problems. And the first one is kind of a problem. The second one is just not really a problem, but it just depends on what your mission is with the knife. And for me, I would want to use this knife for more than just being at a campsite. I don't like the mission of the knife. I don't like that campsite stuff. I want to hear, I'm taking this thing hunting, mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, just hiking, you know, on a fishing trip where we're going for some big fishing game, where you're out there. When you're using a knife like this for stuff that is very active and proactive, and you run high, and you're in the wilderness, and you run high risk of there being potential problems, you could fall, whatever. You don't want to lose your knife. I don't like this sheath for that, but it's not even designed for that, because you can see on the website it says campsite. So this is really more designed for, you're already at the campsite, you're just doing campsite stuff, you're getting the food prep ready, you know, you're getting the fire ready, you're doing stuff like that. You're not, you know, tracking a bear, you know, you're not climbing up, you know, a huge mountain with, you know, it's not active. So that's a problem I have with this. Not just because it's leather. I mean, if it was polymer, I probably would like it better. I just feel like they weren't designed together. That's how I feel. I feel that when they designed this knife, they didn't design it with the sheath. I feel like they made the knife, and then they said, okay, make a sheath for this, and a guy made the sheath. So now, does it fit? Yeah, it fits. It's perfect. It looks fantastic, and it fits perfect. But it ain't this. Okay. Let's not get it twisted. Right? So this is the SRK by Cold Steel. This is the Secure-X sheath. They made these together. They weren't just thinking about the knife or just thinking about the sheath. They were thinking about both. When this thing locks in here, it ain't going nowhere. Nowhere. And I didn't even strap it in yet. So if I'm hiking or if I'm on a hunt and we're running through the woods and I trip on a rock and fall and get back up and keep running, I didn't just lose my knife in the darkness. It's still there. I'm not dogging GiantMouse right now for this because they didn't design it for this. All I'm saying is, guys, as beautiful as this knife is, I want to use this when I'm out doing activity in the wilderness. I'm going on a trip this summer where I'm going to be, you know, away from civilization, doing some potentially dangerous stuff. And I'm not going to take this knife. I might take it anyway because I love it so much and put it in my backpack. And then once I get to the campsite, I can pull it out and just use it. But it ain't gonna be what I'm carrying when I'm running through you know, the darkness doing some type of a hunt or something. Nah, I'm gonna have something that it was designed together. Like I said, this without this is almost useless. You can't carry this on your person without a sheath. You kill yourself. Where are you gonna put it? You got to be able to hold it, right? It's not a folding knife, so you have to have something serious. So I mean, listen, it's what it is. I'm gonna see if I can get a polymer sheath made for this, and then that would solve that problem. Or if GiantMouse wanted to come out with something that's more for adventurous, not just a campsite, that would be great. That would be nice, because this knife rocks. The only other problem, and I was going to try to fix it, but I think I'm not going to because I might end up ruining it, is the attachment is in a bad spot. Because as you can see already, as I pull this out, I run my blade right across. And then as I put it in, I run my blade across there. And it's already cutting into the strap. If this strap, which goes through here, instead of coming through the front, went around the back, then when you unstrapped it, the strap would be open, right? It would be open, and therefore when you sheath your knife, you won't run across that, because that eventually is going to just cut this thing right off. Eventually. Like I said, most of their sheaths, I think all of them, none of them even have an attachment. They're just open sheaths like this. Just wide open. Where you just sheath it and you're walking around like you're using it in the kitchen or something. So they haven't, you know, got the adventure part down. You know, the knife rocks, but the adventure part, the sheath has to be part of the knife. That's the bad side, all right? The one good side is this. This is an awesome company. They make really good knives and really good stuff. And, you know, listen, do I think GiantMouse is listening to my videos like that? Are they going to take my advice? Absolutely not, right? Because I'm nobody. But listen, if they decide to make something with a little bit more of a rugged individual in mind, where people who actually go in the wilderness and hunt, there are people who hunt wild boar at night. You know, I'm just saying. I mean, there's people who, you know, are going to places that are extremely remote, where they have to get in a whitewater raft. They go to that point, then they get to another point. I mean, you have adventure people out there. And when they're in the wilderness, away from civilization, away from 911, away from medical care, away from help, they need their tools. They need to have their tools on them. They need not to have lost their tool, that it fell out of the sheath, or the sheath, the stitching ripped. They need they need it to be there. So hopefully GiantMouse will eventually one day move on to the more hardcore individuals that want a tool and a sheath that will fit that, you know, that criteria. But for now, you got the baddest knife in the campsite. That's all I got.